Hi Maria, I wanted to offer some functional movement sequences and postures with the hammock and talk to you a little bit about it first. So I was going to target the tear in the shoulder, trying to strengthen muscles that surround your tear and improve the shoulder joint mechanics. And also for you to start understanding your range of motion and limitations. So we're working with productive discomfort, not pain. And also proper alignment so we can stay safe while we do these postures. For the frozen shoulder, I'm going to integrate things that will increase mobility and range of motion, increase your circulation so we can reduce inflammation, and stretch in a safe range without compromising the body. There's some alignment that I want to talk about just to review proper alignment. I'm assuming because you're a dancer, you have some common alignment that is more turned out, that's really not as functional for safe long-term movement. So I want to go over the plank and forward fold, downward dog, how to stretch your shoulders safely, cat-cows, spinal extension, neck extension, high lunge, square hips, and parallel feet. So I'll be reviewing some of the alignment cues to think about when you are practicing. For the bone spur, we'll be doing exercises to correct your posture and increase circulation. And then your old neck injury, we'll focus on alignment and lengthening while extending and showing modifications to protect your neck while you're doing the postures. For carpal tunnel, stretches, things to strengthen your wrists and to increase circulation. For tight hips, we're going to use the hammock to create space so we can actually open in a safe way. And it will give us space to get into some really good deep stretches, increase mobility. So the sequence that I'll be doing, the hammock is going to be around your hip height. Of course, if you also want to do more restorative, I can make a lesson plan or show you some postures with the hammock super low, which are more gentle and more restorative. All right, so I'm going to talk you through the postures. You can probably just watch it, or you can do it while I'm talking it through. Ultimately, I'm not going to be doing a full class. I'm going to show you the certain postures that I think might be beneficial for you, and then hopefully you can practice them at home and feel better. We'll start just with rolling up and down. I love doing this, especially in the morning, but I want to make sure that we're hinging and doing our forward fold safely. So I'll start here. So with the feet at hip distance, you're going to want to press into all four corners of your feet without gripping your toes. So maybe lift the toes for a moment and then soften. And we're going to bend the knees and relax the hands right next to us. Take an inhale. On your exhale, chin to chest. Draw your navel in and round and slowly roll down into a forward fold. We want to make sure that our belly is on our thighs. Neck stays relaxed and neutral, but our shoulders actively draw away from the ears. If you can keep the belly on the thighs, you can begin to straighten the legs. But if straightening the legs cause the belly to come off, then you want to bend and keep the belly on the thighs. This is going to be really safe for our hips and spine when we're doing our forward fold. And then rolling up, bending the knees even a little bit more. And then on your exhale, drawing the navel in and rounding and rolling, finding that stability as you press into the feet, coming back up to neutral, drawing the neck slightly in, chin slightly tucked. Take an inhale, exhale, bend the knees, chin to chest, rolling and rounding down, keeping the weight on the feet. Belly on the thighs, releasing, taking a couple breaths in our forward fold, or as many as you want, and exhale, round and rolling up. If this is too much on your spine, we can also modify it, so bending the knees even more. On your exhale, chin to chest, bend the knees and rounding, keeping the hands on the thighs as you slowly bring the belly onto the thighs. This will help support the spine. Deep inhale. On your exhale, rounding and rolling up, but walking the hands up the legs to help support the spine so it's not all in the spine. So that's rolling up and down. I suggest doing a minimum of 3 of those a day. And then I want to just talk about some ways that you can extend the neck, making sure that we're extending. So extending the neck means lengthening, right? And so a lot of people crunch into this, and this can be really dangerous for the neck. So if you're ever bringing the neck back for any posture, of course going back, if there's a posture that says to bring the neck back, you can keep it neutral or always interlace the fingers behind the head. So learn to modify while you are practicing. But if you want to try to bring the head back, make sure you're lengthening through the neck, drawing the shoulders away from the ears. So there's this pull, like in ballet. The top of the head is pulling and bottom of your chest is pulling, all the way pushing down through the feet. So there's this length, reach in opposition as you extend and drawing the shoulders down as you extend. So we're not dumping into the neck, we're lengthening and becoming very active when we are extending the neck. This should help a little bit with if you ever feel neck pain while you are practicing. The biggest thing to remember is just like in dance, there's that pull in opposition whenever we're extending the spine, especially even in our lower spine. We don't want to dump, we want to pull in that opposition and lengthen as we extend. Make sure we're also doing that in the neck. Drawing the shoulders away from the ears will help this a lot. A wonderful neck stretch can be using the hammock. We will hold on to the hammock, one hand on each side, and then right ear to right shoulder. Pull down on that left hand to draw your left shoulder down. So the opposite shoulder is drawing down. Couple breaths through the nose, ribs in, belly in, tailbone drawn down. And then take a slight diagonal with the chin. So the chin goes up slightly. And you can pull down with the left hand in the hammock, or you can pull down with that right hand on your chest. Shoulders drawing down, especially that left. And then on your exhale, draw the chin to the chest, bring the neck back to neutral, draw your chin in, and then switch to the other side. So left ear to left shoulder, pull down on that right shoulder. You can use the hammock to pull down on. So you get a nice elongated spine, elongated stretch. And then you can take a slight diagonal with the chin, feeling this more in the chest. And then on your next exhale, chin to chest. So hopefully those can be some good ways to stretch the neck in a safe way, and then learning how to extend the neck in a safe way. All right, what do we have over here now? All right, so standing second stage. This is also a wonderful neck stretch. So if we're gonna come into the cross position, so it's a round in your upper back and your rib cage, and then we're gonna bring the hammock, oh, my mic, let's see, I might have to lower that. Bring it into front of your shoulders, and you should be just behind your center, and you can relax forward. We can actually do some shoulder mobility here too for your frozen shoulder. We can let our hands go in and out. The less weight that you put into the hammock, the more weight you're going to have in your feet. And then if you want to have a little bit more weight in your hammock, you can. This just depends on what feels good for your shoulders. It's just working on mobility, front and back. So we went side to side, now front and back. You can also do some arm circles. Make sure that your knees are bent and you're scooping of the pelvis. Make sure you do arm circles both ways too. And then our standing second stage, a nice neck stretch is to interlace the fingers behind the neck. And so we're going to try and lengthen the neck while we draw the chin into the chest. Bending the knees and then taking weight out of the hammock so it's not in our shoulders. And then lengthening and scooping of the pelvis. So drawing the navel in and the belly in. And then draw the shoulders away from your ears as you draw your pelvic bone forward and root down through the feet. Shoulders away from the ears. Keeping the breath through the nose. And then slowly release the hands and your weight back into the shoulders. Shifting the weight back into your feet and rounding and rolling up. So what else is the next one I got here? All right, so we're going to go into cross position, doing some cat-cows and a layback. This is a great spinal opening. It's also a way that we're going to work on our grip strength and our shoulder strength in a safe way, and then get some nice chest and shoulder opening. So we're in the cross position. Hammock is in the upper rib cage. Pressing the hammock forward, come in front of your center, feet at hip distance, and then slowly bring weight into the hammock. Now we're in our chair pose. If at any time you feel like the hammock is starting to slide up your armpits too much, you're going to want to do a little mini pull-up to readjust. Should be in the upper rib cage. Every time that you're in this position in chair, we want to be actively drawing our shoulder blades down. This is already going to strengthen your shoulder blades. And then we can rock forward and back. Nice traction of the spine. And do some cat-cows. First, we're going to do cat-cows with the fingers interlaced, keeping our neck neutral. So a lot of times in cat-cows, everyone's throwing their head back, but if that's too much for your neck, interlacing the fingers behind your head. And then we're going to drop the tailbone down and pull the tailbone back. So we're lengthening as we extend. Draw your shoulder blades down. Take an inhale. And then on your exhale, root down into the feet, feet at hip distance, ribs in, belly in, and draw your shoulder blades down. And then inhale, draw the hips down and back and lengthen. And then exhale, round, ribs in, shoulder blades down, pressing into the feet but not gripping with the toes. Shifting forward, inhale, drop the hips, lengthen, shoulder blades down, and then exhale, round. So you can also do this with the neck neutral, but pressing into the hammock on the cow as you open, and then pressing back on the hammock as you round into the cat. Shifting forward, pressing, getting a deeper opening in the upper spine, but the hammock helps with that lengthening as we're extending, and then rounding and scooping, drawing the shoulder blades down. If you wanted to add the neck in, you could, but make sure you're lengthening through the neck as you let the head go back. Good, so if you feel like you need to readjust, you can pull up. Now pressing into the feet with the hips up, interlace the fingers behind the head, elbows wide. You can lengthen and get a nice heart and shoulder opening as we lay back. I like to rock forward and back. You can also rock side to side. When you want to exit, take an inhale and exhale. Drop the hips, draw the ribs in, and bring your neck back to neutral. The full expression of this has our head go back, but depending on your neck injury, that might or might not feel good. But you can go into that full progression by straightening up those legs, activate the thighs, raise the kneecaps, rooting into the ball of the foot, then opening those hands out wide, extending the fingers towards the mat. Roll your shoulders around, back, and down. You can have a slight bend in your elbows. Keep extending the fingers to the mat. Pin your shoulder blades together, and then you can lay back and look back. It's important that we have a nice energy line in the legs and that we're lengthening through the spine as we extend. Fingers are super active, extending towards the mat, pinning our shoulder blades around, back, and down. Neck is lengthening as we extend. To exit, you would soften the arms down towards the thighs, then reach up for the hammock and grab it. Take an inhale. On your exhale, bend the knees, drop the hips, rock forward and look forward. So nice stretch and opening. Now to strengthen our wrists, especially for carpal tunnel, and also to strengthen our shoulders, we're going to do mini pull-ups. So holding on to the hammock just above your head, draw your elbows forward, draw your hips up. Take an inhale. On your exhale, pull yourself up. Now keep your elbows hugged in, shoulders back and down, and hold on for 3 to 5 to 8 breaths, and then slowly come down, wiggling those fingers. Opening the arms out wide, rolling the wrists around 3 times in each direction as you continue to draw your shoulders down. So even though I'm hanging in this, I'm really active by drawing the shoulders down. So this is going to help strengthen the shoulders. To exit, grabbing on, shift forward, and pull yourself on up. So you might not want to do all of those at the same time. You might want to enter into the cross chair and do one at a time, maybe just working on the strength of the hands and the shoulders with the elbows hugged in, and then coming on up, and then maybe going back into it later and doing some cat-cows. But I wanted to show you some different things that might feel good, that might help strengthen, and also increase your mobility. All right, hold on, I'm going to turn this over. Oh, I have a nice moving meditation too that I like to do in the cross position. It can help warm you up. So feet at hip distance, and you're going to be in the center. Elbows are bent, thumbs on one side, fingers are on another side. Slight bend of the knees, scoop of the pelvis, ribs in. Inhale as you turn to the left, exhale to the right. Inhale, exhale. This is good to do. You're keeping your ribs in, scoop of the pelvis, no arch, knees bent. You continue breathing through the nose on your inhale and your exhale. I like to do it for anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. Then after your 30 seconds to a minute, coming to the center, opening up the arms, bending those elbows, and we're going to let the hammock slide over our head. So now our thumbs are on one side, fingers are on the other side, known as wrist wrap. Arms wider than our shoulders, elbows slightly bent. Feet are just behind center, feet at hip distance. Draw your hips back with the knees bent. And you can slowly hinge over, allowing for a nice chest and pectoral stretch as your shoulder blades come together. If it is too much, then come up slightly. Make sure that we're working in a safe range. If it's pinching, come up even more. Roll your shoulders around, back and down. Make sure they're nice and active, actively drawing away from your ears. Only open and stretch as much as it feels safe. Productive discomfort versus pain. The more weight that you put into the hands and in the hammock, the deeper it is. You can take out weight by shifting into the feet and coming up. Bend those knees even more. Take an inhale. On your exhale, round and roll on up. Inhale the shoulders up to the ears. Exhale, around, back, and down. Some other shoulder stretches for you are going to be good for your mobility, but we want to be careful that we're not hurting. So when I had my torn rotator cuff, what I found is that I had one side more flexible than another, and I tended to allow my shoulder to pop out of my socket on my injured one. So we want to make sure that we're learning how to stretch safely. So with the hands at shoulder distance, palms facing down, roll your shoulders around, back, and down. Bend those knees, reach forward so all the weight's on to your feet, and then slowly let the neck relax in between. The more that you shift forward, the deeper it is. We want to watch out for our shoulders popping out of the socket, so we want to keep them engaged and yet active, and yet also relaxing enough to get a nice stretch. Keep your wrists straight. Breath through the nose. Take an inhale and an exhale, round and roll on up. So that can be a variation. See if that one works. Another variation is to have our fingers interlaced and palms together with the elbows bent. So another variation of a shoulder stretch. When you're doing these shoulder stretches, it's very important to keep your belly in and your ribs in. Don't let this dumping happen. Don't let your ribs come out. Make sure whenever we're doing the shoulder stretches that we keep the spine straight. You can shift forward to put more weight or shift back. Take an inhale. On your exhale, you can round and roll on up. The other thing when we're doing our shoulder stretches is to always make sure that we shift our hips back before we hinge over. Otherwise, we could go too deep, and this could be dangerous for us. All right, so those are some great shoulder stretches that you can do. Another one that is really nice is to open the arms and let the hammock come around behind you. So, and then you can slide your hands down as close as you feel comfortable. And bend the knees, draw the navel in, and you can put a little bit of weight back to get a nice stretch, keeping the wrists straight. All right. So now I want to do Warrior 3 and lunges. These are balancing postures. One of the things, especially in yoga, is when we're working on our balancing postures, their alignment tends to go off because we're just trying to focus on balancing. So the hammock is here to hold us so we don't have to focus so much on balancing. We can focus more on the correct alignment. So I want to make sure that our Warrior 3 is done with the correct alignment, and I want to make sure our high lunge is. So we can use the hammock. If you hold it onto the hammock at shoulder width, sliding the hands down, bending the knees. Our feet are going to be just in front of the center, so we'll take a step in front of the center. And then, I think you can still see me, and then bending your knees, and then extend one leg back for Warrior 3. Bend your elbows, and try not to put too much weight into the hammock. You want to make sure that your standing hip is directly over your standing ankle, and you want to make sure your hips are square. So a lot of times people externally rotate, so we really want to have that internal rotation, feeling that on the inner thigh as we lift up. Flexing that right foot is super helpful so you can see your toes reaching towards the ground. You can also floint if you want, pointed foot flex toes, or you could point, whatever feels right. And then on your next exhale, draw the navel in, draw your right knee up to your nose as you pull down in the hammock, scoop of the belly, draw the navel in, and root down through your standing leg. Inhale, slowly extend back, bending the elbows to Warrior 3, drawing the ribs in, squaring up the hips, and exhale, right knee into nose and rounding. Inhale, slowly extend back to Warrior 3. And exhale, root into that standing leg. Draw the knee into the nose. And then slowly we're going to extend back and come into a high lunge. Bending both knees. First start by drawing the belly in, draw the tailbone down, and this scooping action, right? Scoop of that pelvis, right? Thrusting of the hips forward. Pulling down in the hammock to help with that thrust. Making sure when we're bending our knees over our ankle, if we feel like it's going to go over our toes, then we can bring our front foot out farther. And now we're going to press into the ball of the foot and draw your heel up, keeping the hips square, lengthening through the psoas and the hip flexor. A lot of people drop their heel back, but this is going to be really hard on the spine and the hips. So press into the ball of the foot, heel raises up, scoop, thrust the hips forward, lengthen through the hip flexor, and bend into our front knee. Pull down into the hammock to help deepen this, keeping the neck neutral, shoulders actively drawing away from the ears as we distribute our weight evenly on our feet too. This is going to be really tight, especially if we're standing all day or sitting all day. And the hip flexors can get really tight too if we're stressed about security or money. All right, now let's turn our back heel in for Warrior 3. This can be a great posture too. So we're going to make sure our heels are in line. Draw the tailbone down, draw the navel in, reach in opposition. This is great for shoulder stability. Reaching our fingers in opposition, shoulders down, ribs in, distribute the weight evenly. And then reverse warrior, we're going to switch. So now we're holding on to the hammock behind us. Continue to reach in opposition. Externally rotate that front palm so palm faces the ceiling. Then come up and over, elongating the side body. Then pull down in the hammock on that back hand, bending into that front knee, shoulder away from your ears. This is going to be a nice opening. Keep bending into that front knee, shoulder away from the ears. Distributing the weight evenly, and then cinch the ribs in as we come back into our warrior two. Bringing the hammock in front of us, pulling down to help come into our high lunge, bending our front knee to come into our warrior three, and always exiting warrior three with the knee in towards the nose, and then releasing. Bend those knees round and roll on up. So that's a nice little sequence of balancing and strengthening and stability. I can do it really quickly on my other side just so you can see it again. We're going to start just in front of the center, hands at shoulder distance, bending the elbows as we extend one leg back to warrior three, making sure we keep the hips square and not trying to have too much weight in the hands. On your exhale, you draw the knee in towards the nose as you root down with your standing leg. Inhale, you extend back into warrior three. You can hold these as long as you feel comfortable wherever you're at, whether it's 2 breaths or 8 breaths. These are just some sequences that can be super helpful for stretching and stabilizing. And the hammock really helps us so we can make sure that we are doing this with the correct alignment, which is super important, especially as we're trying to do some physical therapy and healing injuries and trying to work on functional movement. So our high lunge, bending both knees to square up the hips, then pressing into the ball of the foot, raising the heel, pulling down into the hammock to help with that scoop and that stretch of the hip flexor, moving that front foot out if we have that flexibility. Since we have something to hold on to, we can do it with the correct alignment. Ribs in, belly in, shoulders actively drawing away from the ears. Also recognizing if you have one side more flexible than another, that can cause inefficiencies. So balancing our strength and flexibility, making sure we're strong on both sides and flexible on both sides is going to help us become more efficient and help reduce our pain. So then we can come into our warrior two. First, we'll start reaching, holding the hammock in front of us. The big thing here is to reach in opposition, shoulders around, back, and down, tailbone down, and ribs in, and distributing our weight evenly. We can also come into our reverse warrior, palm facing up, lengthening, extending. Now pull down on that back hand, draw the shoulder away from the ears, bending into that front leg, getting an opening in that side body. And then pulling down in the hammock and drawing our ribs in to exit. And using the hammock to come back into our high lunge. And coming back into our warrior three, and always finishing with the knee into the nose, bending both knees to round up. So I kind of went fast through that sequence, but wanted to show you that again. Again, these are things that I think could possibly be helpful for you, but for you, you're really going to have to test them out and see what works best, and stay as long as you feel that you need to or want to. All right, what else do I have in here? All right, standing pike, leg swings. All right, so let's get some stretching of our legs and our hips. What I love about the hammock is it does create space for us to do safe hip openers. So with tight hips like mine, a lot of times our floor-based yoga practice is really challenging to do these hip stretches, so the hammock can be really wonderful. If you have tight hamstrings, you might want the hammock a little bit lower. You'll start by holding onto the hammock at shoulder height, then slide your hands down. You're going to be just a little bit behind your center. Bend the knees slightly for stability, and then bring the hands a little bit closer so you can get your foot up and into the hammock. So bring one knee into the chest, and then we're going to bring it over the heel. Getting a nice stretch, draw the hip back and down, and then we want to make sure that all of our weight is on our standing legs, so the hammock is not pulling us in one direction or another. So you can really, I don't need the hammock. I could take my foot out. If you have hypermobility in your knee, then you might feel a little hyperextension, so have a slight bend. Whenever you have a leg or your arms in the hammock, for stability, you can bend, and also to protect from hyperextension, you can have a slight bend. Holding on with the hammock at your shoulder height. Inhale, that opposite hand. Draw. I'm standing on my left leg and my right foot's in, so I'm going to draw my right hip back and down. And then I'm going to hinge over by drawing my tailbone back, trying to get my belly on my thigh. I don't want to round over. I want to have a nice, long, flat spine. My left hand is just going to rest, reaching below my left shoulder, and I can slide my right hand down as much as I feel comfortable. Keeping that neck neutral. Watch out for hyperextension of your standing leg, and make sure your standing foot is reaching forward and not turned out. If you want to deepen this, you can flex that right foot and even pull your toes back. Make sure we're really pulling our heart forward and we're not rounding. We want to make sure we have our belly on our thighs. So this is our standing pike. Whenever you exit, you're going to bend that standing leg, and then on your exhale, round and roll on up. You can also just work your stability here. You could play with coming on up to the ball of the foot. It's hard to stabilize for me, obviously, but you could do heel rises. And then I like doing leg swings too. This is a way to create some mobility and open up the hips in a really gentle way, whether you want to hold on or not hold on. Keeping that hip down while you do allow the hips to swing. And then our standing twist is going to be great for your hips and for sciatica. So have a slight bend in your standing leg, belly in, ribs in, shoulders down. Opposite hand as leg in the hammock, so I have my right leg in. Left hand is going to hold onto the hammock, bending my standing leg, and I'm going to flex my right foot as I pull my right leg across to the left. My right thumb's going to go into my right hip crease. I'm going to draw it down. I'm going to be lengthening as we twist. Feel this in the sciatic nerve probably, and if you want to look and reach to the right, you can. Make sure whenever you are twisting, you're elongating the spine, shoulders actively drawing away from your ears, neck is neutral, and when we're flexing, make sure your pinky bone is all the way back, so we're fully flexing and pushing that hip down. And then exit, unwind, coming into a pigeon variation, so the hammock is in the arch of the foot, ankle is flexed and toes are flexed, and then the knees bent to 90 degrees. Going to open up the hammock with the hands at shoulder height, slight bend in your standing leg, open up, shoulders around, back and down, and then slowly hinge over. Depending on your flexibility, you might be able to slide your hands down, keep the neck neutral, and relaxed and soften into wherever you feel that tension. It's a wonderful way to get a nice hip opening. You can also play with shifting your weight forward if you want. The more you open the hammock, the deeper it is. If you're going to want to keep it closer, you can, but make sure you hug the elbows in, shoulders stay down. And then you can release. So just to review, we talked about pike stretch, belly on the thighs, and we also did just some balancing. We did some opening and closing, leg swings. We did a flexed standing twist, and then we did attitude. So those could be some really great ones to increase your, I got my fuzz from my slippers all over me, increase your mobility in your hips and to safe alignment when we are stretching our hamstrings. All right, So I'd like to go into now some strengthening of our wrists and our arms down onto the mat. So coming onto the knees, left hand is in, right hand forward, come onto the right hip, go down to the right forearm, left leg goes out, around and in, so it replaces your left hand. And we're going to turn over onto our knees. So it kind of looks like a three-limb table. And our back leg is in and nice and straight. Hands are stacked underneath our shoulders. Fingers are wide, thumb not so wide, and pointer fingers facing forward. Just from here, you want to make sure that we're not arching and dumping in the spine. We want to be pressing the floor away from us, broadening the shoulders across our back, and scooping of the pelvis and drawing the navel in. Just this action of staying with the belly in and the navel in can be a lot. So depending on your wrist flexibility and wrist strength, you might this might be enough for you rather than coming into the three-limb plank that I want to show. So tucking those right toes under and straightening up that right foot, we have this three-limb plank. No dumping and arching. We want to be lengthening through the spine and scooping, activating that leg in the hammock, pressing the floor away from us without hyperextending, and drawing the ribs in and the belly in, feeling that scooping action. Neck is neutral. Breath is through the nose. Stay and flointing of that left foot as energy is going out the ball of the foot. You can stay as long as you want, whether you're doing 1 breath or 8 breaths. A nice stretch here for the hip flexors is our resting stretch. So if you shift your hips back, you can walk your hands back towards the knee, press the floor away from you, scoop the pelvis, and continue to shift your hips back. You can make this more mild by coming down onto the forearms. Or you can keep it nice and deep on the hands. Shifting forward, flex the back foot, bend the back knee, we can get into another variation of this stretch, although this is more in the quad. Again, keeping the spine from dumping and extending, we always have to be active in our core, drawing the ribs in and trying not to arch, trying to keep the spine straight. And this might be good strengthening just on your wrists by pushing the floor away from you. So the main ones that I want you to work on for strength are that three-limb plank, and then the next one is three-limb dog. So on your exhale, hips up and back, and we want to keep our hips square. The leg in the hammock stays straight with energy out the ball of the foot. And then our hands are at shoulder distance, neck is neutral. You should feel a slight internal rotation of your lower arm and external rotation of your upper arm. So we don't want to be dumping into our shoulders. We want to keep them nice and active. We're pressing the floor away from us, and then internal rotation of our lower arm, external rotation of our upper arm to keep our shoulders engaged. And neck stays neutral. Again, staying here for anywhere from 1 breath to 8 breaths to 16 breaths, wherever you're at with this. And then scoop and round. You can come back into that three-limb plank from your three-limb dog. You can also make this into a little flow. Inhale, exhale, three-limb dog. Inhale, three-limb plank. Exhale, three-limb dog. Just careful of your shoulders when you are in these postures. Making sure that you take time, to roll your wrists around, stretching the wrists, and or if it hurts your wrist, don't doing so long, or you can also do those on your forearms. Great ways to strengthen the core. Of course, you'd want to do both sides. I guess I can show you both sides really quickly just to review it. So starting in our three-limb table with our spine in, trying to keep our spine straight. And then tucking that back toe under and coming into our 3-limb plank. Both legs are straight, flointed foot that's in the hammock. Trying to take out the arch in the spine. Also working in our 3-limb dog. These are wonderful inversions too. Right here is an inversion, so we're strengthening and we're increasing our circulation to decrease inflammation. Also calming the mind, reducing stress, anxiety, depression, insomnia, migraines. Holy cow, it's a lot of things. But what I find is people usually allow their shoulders to not be engaged and come into their ears, and this is what can make it dangerous. So if we have this engaged shoulder with the internal rotation of the lower arm, external rotation of the upper arm, we can be safe and strengthening while we're doing that inversion. And then we have some nice stretches for the hip flexors as we walk our hands back to our knee, pressing the floor away. Again, that scoop, navel in, belly in. You can also do this with the back leg bent. Gets more into the quad. It feels great. Okay, go ahead and release. One of the other things that I really like to do in forward fold when our knees are bent, this can be really great to do after those 3-limb planks. Flex one foot and stick our hand underneath with our palms facing up, fingers facing the heel. And we can get both in there, and then you can squeeze your toes and give your wrists a little massage. And then you can bend the elbows and just release over, again, keeping the belly on the thighs. Shoulders actively drawing away from the ears. I forget it too. It's like if you just got to keep saying those cue words over and over and over. And then you can slowly release. Take an inhale on your exhale, slowly round and roll on up. Whew. That little stretch of the wrists and little massage and stepping on it really is helpful as like a counter pose after your planks and feels really good. Let me see if I got to everything. I wrote notes out for me. Oh, we have some reclining action going. Okay, we're going to come back down onto the mat and do reclining bridge and some split. So it's kind of similar to what we did standing in the hammock, but we're going to be on the ground. So it's a little bit more gentle, and you might even be able to get a little bit deeper. Because we're going to be laying down with our foot in the hammock, it's an inversion, so it's calming the mind, helping to reduce stress, anxiety, depression, insomnia, migraines. It's also increasing our circulation and helping to reduce inflammation. So just lying there with our feet in is really helpful. And you can also, you want to manage with the leg in there that if it ever hurts your knee at any time to bend your knees. So there's a ton of reclining things, but there's a couple things that are specific to your things that you are working on. So let's get to it. Great, so we were just down there, but we're going to get back down there to get our feet in. Some of this is going to be with one leg, and some will be with both legs in. But first, just with one leg in, you want to make sure that your heel stays in. If you feel like it's going to fall out, you might need to lower your hammock. So we want to start with a nice long spine. So press into the foot that is bent on the floor and scoop of the pelvis and press your lower back onto the mat. So we have a nice long spine and long neck, palms facing down. The first one we're going to work on is some strengthening in a different variation for our shoulders. So we're going to do a bridge variation with one leg. So pressing into the palms, press into the forearms, press into the shoulders, press into the foot on the mat, and then press down in the leg in the hammock, pressing into that foot to draw our hips up, pressing into our shoulders and our hands, keeping the neck soft. If it's too much on the leg in the hammock, have a slight bend. You can also advance this variation by reaching one leg up. Keep that pressure of pushing down into the shoulders and pushing down into the hands simultaneously. You could flex, point, roll in circles. Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff you can do here. But I just want to give you some basics at this point. You can even take an inhale, exhale, round, draw the ribs in. Inhale, draw the hips up. Exhale, round. Inhale, up. Exhale, round, come on down. Bring that foot back down. Good. And then some stretches here, hugging the knee into the chest for wind removing. And then straightening for reclining split. For reclining split, it's really important that we don't reach up and bring our shoulders up. We want to keep our shoulders round back and down, reaching up for the hamstring, the calf, or the ankle, wherever you're at. Pointing, flexing, that depends on your flexibility, but keeping the hips square, energy out the leg that's in the hammock. Reclining split, you can also make it active by drawing the hips up, but again, keeping the shoulders down. Diagonal splits, also a great one for our sciatica. So I have my right leg, is my free leg, so my right toes are gonna go just a little bit towards my left ear. My opposite hand, my left hand will go onto my hamstring or my calf or my ankle, depending on my flexibility, just as long as I plug my shoulders down into the mat. My right thumb is gonna push my hip down as I pull this across and towards me. To make it deeper, flex. Make sure you're keeping your shoulders actively drawing into the floor and actively drawing away from your ears. Whew. That's a good one. All right, we can even get a deeper twist by coming back into that bridge variation, but now we're gonna have our free leg bent. My right knee is bent. Pressing the hips up, I'm gonna turn towards the left, reaching my right arm out, drawing my shoulders down, keeping my shoulders down as I keep my hips up for this twist and look towards my right arm. To exit, draw the hips up even higher, cinch at the waist and ribs to slowly come on down. So let's just review that on the other leg, all right? So we're gonna start with this bridge with one leg. Free leg is bent, rooting down into our free leg, pressing into the hands, pressing into the shoulders, drawing the hips up, and also actively pressing into the leg in the hammock. Advanced variation is to bring that leg up, continue to push into the hands, forearms, and shoulders. This is what's strengthening for your shoulders. This is going to be really, really good for it. So pressing into the shoulders and the hands. Again, you can flex point, circles, or do some hip dips. And then some nice stretches. With the lower back on the mat, we can do reclining split, flexed point, making sure our shoulders are down. We can do a little diagonal split, keeping our hips down, and our shoulders down. Deepen it by flexing. And we can do our reclining twist, hips up, pressing into the shoulders, and then turning to the opposite side, looking and reaching, keeping the shoulders down. When you exit, draw the hips up, cinch at the waist and ribs to slowly come down. The other thing you can do is have both legs in. Again, there's probably like 150 postures just reclining here. It's a whole training just in this. But these are at least a couple to start with. The big thing is that the legs are raised above the heart, so gravity does the work for you. You could simply just rock forward and back. Really, if I don't have time to do anything, I will do this, and it will calm my nerves. If I have a group of people that want to take, and they're all nervous and wild, or if I'm teaching teens, I just start with this. Both feet in, rocking side to side, bending the knees in and out, or even doing circles. Just keeping the feet in the hammock and letting, like I said, gravity do the work. Here, I can't even talk anymore. It's going to chill me out so much. Really, really yummy. You can also be active here, activating both legs, maybe even a slight bend, pressing into hands and shoulders, and pressing into the feet to draw the hips up. So another variation of bridge. Continuing to keep the neck long and the shoulders down and the shoulders into the mat and pressing into the hands. You could also do this with bent knees or with straight legs. Inhale, exhale, you could slowly come down through hollow and do some hip dips. Biggest thing is I want you to be pressing into your hands and shoulders and keeping really active and mindful of the spine. Trying to press the spine, lower back into the mat. Having bent legs will make it easier, but that's also great core and internal abdominal work. Or you can just turn your palms up and relax. I might be able to get up. Okay. Do make sure that when you do exit these, that you take time before you get up. Coming onto your side, taking a moment. Even though it's a mild inversion, you still might get a little bit dizzy and you'll have to find your equilibrium. But it feels really good. As far as inversions, I'm not sure how many inversions you do or how many you know or if you like them. There's the classic star, upside down straddle, that's like our logo. But the one that I really love, especially for the spine and the neck, it's a full decompression of the spine because we don't have the hammock on our spine. It's a mild decompression, but it's also a full decompression of the neck too. And it's good for a little fascia release in the hip flexors, and it's called hip hang. So I just wanted to show it to you. And the hands are wider than your hips, and you're going to come on up to the ball of the feet, and you're going to bring it into the hip crease. So you want to make sure it can go below your hip bone into the hip crease. And you're going to press your hips back on the ball of the feet, extend one leg back, hinge over, reach one hand down. So my other hand is still pressing it below my hip bone, keeping it in the hip crease. Then bring my second leg up, so both feet are up. Then I come into this like flying plank position. And if I need to readjust, I can readjust here. And then I can soften, hinging over and relaxing. I actually like to do into this full relaxation where I'm just like a rag doll. Feels great. But you can also relax on the forearms. Keeping the breath through the nose, but if it's too much for you, exhaling out the mouth. And then you can have a little rounding sensations, kind of like cat-cows, just to get a little bit deeper and a little fascia release. This is my favorite inversion. It feels so great on my spine. You can also press into your thighs as you draw the shoulders away from your ears, and this gives you a little bit of traction. Breathing into wherever you feel that tension. You can come into more like a forward fold, or you can be more open, kind of like a downward dog. To exit, bringing the feet to the mat, walk the feet to the center, hands to the center, and slowly round and roll on up. Inhale the shoulders up to the ears, exhale around back and down. I recommend doing these inversions anywhere for 30 seconds to 2 minutes, being very gentle when you exit. The more active you are in the inversion, the longer you can stay. In that particular inversion, there's actually stretches that we can do. There's a whole sequence that's kind of like a sun salutation that we can do that are really wonderful, that make you or allow you to stay a little bit longer. Again, I'm not sure where you are with inversion, so I just wanted to kind of start there. Another great one is star, which you probably know, which you're going to have the hammock at your tailbone, and you're going to come into a hollow bound angle and then slowly invert. The big thing that you want to make sure of is as you're inverting, if you'll notice, I'm keeping my neck neutral. We're not throwing our head back. So I'm pressing forward on the hammock, coming into this hollow bound angle, keeping my neck neutral, then I can come in to this inverted straddle position. To make myself feel a little bit more comfortable, I'll sometimes hold my neck while I look at my feet to transition, bringing them in front, knees wide and hips forward, trying to take out that arch in the lower spine. This one feels really good, but it does have a little bit of pressure in the spine versus the hip hang where nothing was touching the spine. I like to open my arms out wide, palms facing up, and just relax. You can also have the palms facing down, do mild twists. Inversions are going to be great for your mental health, physical health. To exit, activate the core, look up. For your neck, you can hold it to help you. reach up above your thighs, and slowly bring your feet to the mat. I like doing second stage as a way to regroup and find my equilibrium after the inversions, so slowly taking time. Okay. Well, I hope that helps. It's hard not to be right there with you, but those are some that I think might be of benefit. So hopefully you watch this, or you have time to watch this and practice and try and give me some feedback and let me know if they help or don't help, or if you need anything else or want anything else to try, more restorative, more, less, you know, I'm here for you. Much love. Thanks.